Hey guys, I'm here taking a look at one of my newest custom action figures. This was a commission piece, and he is a Spec Ops Commando from the Star Wars Expanded Universe. This is actually the very first Star Wars custom figure I've done, from scratch. Surprisingly to myself, actually, I was like, well, I've never actually done any Star Wars figures. And I took this one on because he has a sci-fi feel. I really liked his outfit, and nothing about him specifically said Star Wars. Not that, I wouldn't have taken on a really iconic character, but just the kind of stuff I'm working on right now, it's a nice warm-up for maybe the Warhammer sci-fi universe I want to get into. I like the design of this guy's mask, and say I do some Mortal Kombat ninjas, this was good practice. Anyway, the client had some specific things he wanted me to include, some changes to the reference material, and I was more than happy to include all that stuff while staying close to the images provided. And this guy turned out great, so let's take a closer look. Alright, let's run through this guy's articulation and get that out of the way. Show you what I'm working with over here. I used the Marvel Legends, the new go-to body that they're using that was first on Bucky, Captain America. I think this was a US agent, but I mean, they're all the same. So of course, using a Dremel tool, sanding everything down to a basic frame, that way I can sculpt everything up and keep their proportions. One thing I did remove was his ab joint, and that was actually at the request of the client because he was really concerned with getting his the padded portion of his vest and this belt to be unbroken. So I said, okay, I'm fine with that. Alright, so the head is on a ball up here, ball swivel, back and forth, it still retains good motion. Shoulders come up laterally, can go forward, and still got the bicep swivel. The double jointed elbows are there, and the wrists. So nothing you haven't seen before, and it is one of the reasons I like this body. Whether I'm putting clothes over it or everything is 100% sculpted like this guy, it's still my go-to. I still included the waist swivel, that way you can get some more dynamic poses. 90-degree hips, and double jointed knees. I do like to get rid of that boot top swivel, even if in this case the boot tops actually line up, just because I like the unbroken detail if I'm sculpting. In this case it's an actual boot top, and I don't really think it's that necessary for a custom figure. I don't know, just for posability, because you still have, those high thigh swivels on each side. Sometimes I include it, but most of the time lately I've been just getting rid of it. It's something I don't have to deal with. And here are the ankle pivot and the side-to-side pivot, which I like. Alright, so let's take a closer look at some of the detail work. Alright, so this guy is almost 100% fully sculpted. What I did do was use a head cast, and I'll show an image of that right now. And what I did was I sculpted a generic hero head for another character, and I left it bald, and that way when I cast it I could add hair as I wished, I could tweak the features as I wished, and also with paint you can get many different characters. So what I did was I left the stern gaze on this one. Those eyes are actually from the Winter Soldier Captain America, so it has that Chris Evans brow line right there. And I sort of dremeled away at the bottom of the face and the top of the head. That way I could sculpt everything with impunity and it wouldn't look oversized or anything, because at this scale does really matter. So that helmet and mask, rebreather, whatever it is, was really fun to sculpt, and I just kind of went along with the reference material. I had some hair back there too, peeking out from underneath the helmet. And again, this was good practice for me. I was like, well, I was just thinking Mortal Kombat the whole time, to be honest, but adding my own little flair to this mask, and I really like the way it turned out. It looks Very interesting. And could fit in the Star Wars universe, consequently. And then the torso, all of this detail is sculpted with this belt going on. This is a sculpted piece. And it continues all the way around with the rest of his, I don't know, his vest or his flak jacket. This padded armor section here. And then he's wearing this green bodysuit underneath. So I made sure to include all the fabric wrinkles, everything like that. He has some, those are some very Star Wars-y elements right there. Those dots. They remind me of the stripes running down Han Solo's pants in one of the movies at least. And he also has some elbow pads, and then his sci-fi looking gauntlets on the side. Now the elbow pads, and for that matter the knee pads, and the customer wanted them to look like the Biker Scout classic Star Wars knee pads, so I obliged him on that one. And I like that design myself, so those are fun to sculpt actually. Something I hadn't thought about, like how do I make that in 3D? You know, I've had the Biker Scout figure and all of its incarnations for years, and it's like, okay, well, how do I actually sculpt it? So what I do for that, and I'll take a look at the elbow pads here, is I sculpt it on the elbow joint freely, and I let it dry, and then I pop it off. I may do a little bit of sanding, but after I pop it off, there's already a place for it to fit on there, so I'll super glue it back on. That way it's permanent, and it's not going to come off now. So that's always a good little tip. And it doesn't impede the double jointed elbows. And most of the sculpting, went into that green bodysuit, and the pants you can see, and all that fabric detail right there. And he has the belt with some design elements, and on the reference material some of them had these like data packs right here, so I made sure to add one of those with some glowy readouts. More armor here on his thigh, and then down to his boots, and these were pretty fun to do, making sure you get all the proportions right and everything. Again, with that little band right there to mimic the Biker Scout boots that they wear, even though these are a little bit longer. Alright, there he is, a Rebel Spec Ops Commando from the Star Wars Expanded Universe. And there he is with some Star Wars Black Series Sand Trooper, Stormtrooper guys. He is a bit, I don't know, out of scale if you're a purist, but he can fit in nicely with the Black Series, I think, depending on which figures you put him next to. But again, that was at the request of the client to use this body and at this scale. And a couple other things to think about when I was working on this guy is, you know, the reference material is obviously super 90s, but then thinking if you were an artist working on the expanded universe, how do you keep things going, you know, 20 to 30 years after, staying in that Star Wars aesthetic that those original designers came up with? You can't have things looking too high-tech, and all these things I was thinking about as I was working on this guy and his design, which I, of course, got really into as I had to sculpt, you know, 100% of it. Like, well, what does this mean? Why would they include this? Are things too simplistic, you know? But all that was pretty cool, and I looked at a lot of art, and I really like the way this guy turned out. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll be back with some more videos.